The U.S. election, right? Everyone's talking about it. But today, we're doing a deep dive, going way beyond those headlines.
We are. And thankfully, we've got this Citibank report, U.S. elections projection. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But the headline takeaway right off the bat is that Citibank is calling it a dead heat between Trump and Harris.
50-50. And that's really interesting because you've got other forecasts already picking a side.
So why do you think Citibank went with this even split?
I think it really highlights how unpredictable this election is. I mean, anything could happen. It's like, a political coin toss at this point.
Definitely keeps things interesting. And speaking of interesting, this whole electoral college thing, right?
Oh, yeah, the electoral college always throws a wrench in the works.
It's not as simple as just winning the popular vote.
Nope, you need that magic number, 270 electoral votes. And to get there, you need those swing states.
Which, by the way, is where those down-ballot races can really shake things up. Just a reminder for anyone who needs it, down-ballot means we're not just talking about the president. It's also about who controls the Senate, who controls the House.
Right, so it's like a 3-for-1 deal on election night, and all the pieces matter. And speaking of which, Citibank seems to think the Republicans are in a good spot to hold on to the Senate. But the House, that's a toss-up.
So potentially a divided Congress. What happens if we end up with Republicans controlling the Senate, Democrats in the House, and, well, either Trump or Harris as president?
That's where things could get really interesting. Because a divided Congress, that often means gridlock. Think about big policy decisions, healthcare, taxes.
So basically total standstill, like nothing gets done.
Well, not necessarily a complete standstill, but it does make passing major legislation a whole lot harder. Think of it like, imagine you're trying to remodel your house.
Okay, I like this analogy. I'm picturing it.
Right. So you want to remodel, but you and, say, your partner can't agree on the color of the curtains.
Let alone the budget for the entire project.
Exactly. That's kind of what it's like with a divided Congress. Lots of compromises, watered-down decisions, and that can impact everything. We're talking economic growth. Even your personal taxes could be affected.
And when it comes to the markets, uncertainty is like that unwelcome guest that just won't leave.
Absolutely. And Citibank really emphasizes this point in their report. They're saying that this election is so unpredictable, so understanding what's happening in those swing states is more important than ever.
So we're back to those 6 swing states, right?
Yeah.
Arizona, Georgia, Michigan. It feels like a broken record from 2020.
Well, in a way it is, because those states are always going to be in play. But the reasons they're so volatile this time around, that's what Citibank dives into.
Give me the rundown. What makes these states so unpredictable?
Well, each state's got its own story. Like take Arizona, huge population growth, right? Lots of people moving in.
So you don't really know how they're going to vote just based on past elections.
Exactly. Past voting patterns, they don't mean as much when you've got a whole new set of voters. And then you've got Georgia. Turnout's going to be huge GE there. Both parties, they're going to be pulling out all the stops to get their voters to the polls.
So even a small change, like a few thousand people deciding to stay home, that could swing the entire state.
It's happened before, which is why, every vote really does matter, especially in these nail-biter states.
And I can only imagine what would happen if there's one of those last-minute bombshells. Like what the report calls an October surprise.
Oh, yeah. Those October surprises. Talk about shaking things up. It could be anything, really. A scandal, a policy announcement that nobody saw coming.
It's like the political equivalent of a plot twist. And we've seen how much those can impact an election.
For sure, especially when voters are still trying to make up their minds. Imagine, a huge economic announcement right before Election Day. That could sway a lot of votes.
No kidding. Okay, so speaking of things that can impact an election, let's talk markets. Because a lot of people listening, they're probably wondering how all this political drama is going to affect their wallets.
And that's understandable, especially with all the uncertainty. In fact, Citibank is pretty upfront about the fact that we should probably expect some market volatility as we get closer to the election.
So should we all be panicking?
No. Panic is never a good investment strategy. But it is a good time to be, strategic, pay attention to what's happening.
So what should we be paying attention to?
Well, different sectors are going to react differently depending on who wins. For example, Citibank suggests that if Trump wins energy and financials, those sectors might benefit. But if Harris wins, you might see healthcare and renewables doing well.
So basically, different policies, different winners and losers in the market makes sense to me.
It's all connected. And here's something else that's interesting. Citibank, they don't just leave you hanging with these predictions. They actually offer some investment strategies tailored for different election outcomes.
Okay, so they're not just saying, hey, here's what might happen. They're giving people tools to actually navigate the market no matter what goes down on election day. I like that.
Right. It's about making informed decisions. And part of that is, well, it's accepting that there's still a lot we don't know.
Yeah, like that whole October surprise thing. We haven't even gotten to the potential bombshells yet.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Swing states, market volatility, and of course the big question mark hanging over everything, that October surprise.
Right. And it really is the big unknown, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's tough to predict what those surprises might be, but we can look back at past elections to get an idea.
exactly. Like what comes to mind when you think about these October surprises?
Well, it could be anything from a sudden scandal that rocks a campaign.
Oh, yeah, like a last-minute leak of emails or something.
Exactly. Or it could be a major policy announcement that nobody was expecting, which really throws a wrench in things.
Definitely. Voters are already on edge, trying to make up their minds, and then boom, some big news drops that completely changes the game.
It's like the writers of this election are saving the biggest plot twist for the very end.
It's true. And that's what makes it all so fascinating to follow, right? Knowing that anything can happen, which honestly makes it pretty tough to predict what the markets are going to do.
Oh, absolutely. Because uncertainty in the political sphere, it almost always translates to uncertainty in the markets. And that can make investors a little jittery, to say the least.
Right. But like you said earlier, panicking doesn't really help anyone.
Nope. Knowledge is power, as they say. So the more informed we are about the potential scenarios, the better equipped we'll be to navigate whatever comes our way.
Exactly. And that's what we've tried to do today, right? Break down this election using Citibank's insights as our guide. It's not just about who wins, it's about understanding the forces at play and how they might impact, well, all of us.
I think that's a great takeaway. It's not just about the headlines. It's about understanding the deeper trends, the potential risks, and the opportunities that might emerge.
And perhaps most importantly, it's about being prepared for the unexpected. Because as we've seen, those October surprises, they have a way of throwing everything upside down.
They really do. So buckle up, everyone, because this election is far from over.
And who knows? The wildest ride might be just around the corner. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.